Discount Podcast.
Welcome in, you cheap beggars, to Discount, the bargain bin gaming podcast, hosted by three people so small we might be the quality standards for Game Mill. I am just a 40-year-old something with a receding hairline, picking up women and failing miserably in multiple locations, all while wearing a Speedo. Hi, my name's Josh. I'm plugging into Player 2.
Engaging in my local fighting tournament and maybe a little bit of beach volleyball on the side. I'm Darren. Hello. And buying a £200 collector's edition and throwing away everything except the 12-inch big titty anime model.
Ooh.
Fucking hell.
Is that it? Oh.
It had to be done. I hate myself, but it had to be done.
Best intro since Paul's Footy Bear.
It is best since Paul's Fuzzy Bear, but it is. Yes, hello, welcome into another fight episode for Discount, where we are fighting over bargain video games, where we're buying each other random cheap ones based on a genre, and trying to get the best game out of it, and ultimately not have to do a 24-hour stream. So yes, we're back. It's been a time. It's December. It's Christmas.
A month.
It's Christmas. It's Christmas time.
Yay!
Christmas.
Thanks, Darren.
You sound like the meme of the guy from JLS who halfway through goes, "Merry Christmas."
Fucking hell. This is off to a strong start. It feels right for the episode we've got coming up, to be honest.
Yeah.
But really, I don't really want to talk about how you're doing, what's going on. Should we just go back and look at some better games, or we have to focus on some bad games?
Yeah.
And look and open the vault. So if everyone's ready to open the vault. Alright, the worst bit about that is I always click the button and it takes forever to load. Yeah. And then Uwu came out as she was pushing the door, and I hate every moment of that.
I hope that it comes through in the audio that I made the door a big sound and then it just started like chugging because I was laughing.
Yes.
Still making the sound.
It was very clear, very clear. Well, thank you for that, Gareth.
This is very funny.
So we'll look back at last episode. We're going to look back at Augmented Limbs. So last episode was Augmented Limbs, where we had three games, which were Bioshock, Devil May Cry 5, and Shadow of War. Lord of the Rings, Shadow of War.
Middle Earth, Shadow of War.
Middle of Earth.
Middle of it.
Shadow of War, it's back.
We're back. But we had those three games fighting out to be the best Augmented Limbs, and we asked you guys which was the best game. Now, Vault Games, as a whole, I think you ask, what is the best game rather than what is the best game for this category? So you get a lot of votes based on the best game.
Yeah.
However, I wasn't shocked by the results of this. We got 30 votes, well, over 30 votes, I think it was in the end, and it was a very clear winner. To no one's shock, joining the vault is Bioshock Remastered.
It's another winner again.
Shame you're not winning the episode.
I don't give a fuck.
This is the real victory.
So Bioshock Remastered is going into the vault. Which game do you think came last is the real question. And more surprisingly, every game got a vote. I think that's the biggest shock, really, for me.
I actually think maybe Devil May Cry came last.
I'm not shocked that every game got a vote, but I think it's Shadow of War at the bottom.
And it was Shadow of War at the bottom. It lost by one vote to Devil May Cry.
If you are looking at the options, it's one of those weird, split the vote things.
Yeah.
There are going to be more big-time fans of Devil May Cry than there are of Middle-earth Shadow of War.
Yeah, I mean, there are better Lord of the Rings games out there.
There are.
You know what? Talking of Devil May Cry, though, I know in the Freebies episode we talked a little bit about remakes. Now, the Devil May Cry 1, that would be a fucking banging remake.
That'd be pretty good.
I would play that. Yeah. But it didn't make it into the vault. No. It's a dead game to us now. It means nothing.
Worthless.
Throw it away.
Rubbish. In the bin.
Yeah. Throw it on the floor.
So in goes Bioshock Remastered. Should we close the vault and go and look at what is happening in this episode and regret the decisions we've made?
Hell yeah.
And we will go into the genre then.
was going to ask if you want to do a backwards uwu for going closing the vault, but that's still
I was thinking about it, but then Josh gave me a really Don't do it.
I mean, it more dawned on me that backwards uwu is just uwu.
It's
Yes.
just ooh, yeah.
Unless you do it upside down, then it's
You guys didn't see the fact that Josh's mouth made the same shape as what the letters.
He's very talented.
very many skills, very many skills. Yeah, we'll go look at what we've got this week. So this week we pulled another genre, and that genre was what, Keris?
Embarrassing games.
Darren, what does that mean?
Games which are embarrassing.
Yeah, so it's quite open to interpretation, this, isn't it? Games that we think are embarrassing and not. Either you're embarrassing or the game's an embarrassing game. Something to do that is an embarrassment.
Yeah.
I like that you didn't say you're embarrassed, you said you're embarrassing. Like
Yeah,
your performance playing a game is so
Oh,
embarrassing.
I mean, that would be a really good one. Like,
Yeah.
buy someone, like, you buy Keris, like, a Dark Souls game and she just can't get
Oh,
past the
no.
first boss.
Embarrassing.
That would be an embarrassment.
But that would have been another way to look at it. But yeah, basically some way to embarrass either the person, the game, something along those lines.
Yeah.
What we'll do reveal our games as we normally do in the order that they arrived.
Yeah.
So who did I buy for? Should we just guess that Josh bought the first game?
Josh did buy the first
Yes,
game.
he
Yeah.
did.
Came to me. The game I received for this episode is Catherine, specifically Catherine Full Body, which I think is like a not remade but sort of updated.
It's a game of the year version.
It's because it's made by Atlas, who also make Persona. It is the Persona Royale to Persona's normal release.
Yes, yeah,
It's
yeah.
Catherine Full Body to
Okay.
Catherine. Catherine is a game about a strange number of women named Catherine. Basically, you play as Vincent, who is a 30-something-year-old man who's basically, he's a dead-end guy. He works like a menial job. He goes to the bar each night and drinks, and he's been in a long-term relationship with his girlfriend, Catherine, who is starting to broach the idea of marriage, and he's kind of into it, but he's kind of not. He's not sure if he's ready to take that step in his life. Then at the bar, he meets a woman called Catherine, and unknowingly sleeps with her, and the early part of the game has been about him trying to navigate that issue and like morality-wise, because it keeps happening sort of accidentally as far as he's concerned.
Yeah.
He's never aware of the lead up to it,
Right.
but he is aware that he's been doing it, and she's going to find out. Also added into the full body edition is there's an amnesiac girl called Rin, which is short for Catherine, and I don't know much about her yet, but
Okay.
she seems to have a weird ability in the regard to the other half of the game, which is called the nightmares. There is apparently a thing happening in this game's world where bad men are being trapped in nightmares, and some of them die in the real world.
Fun.
But in the nightmare, you become a sheep to everyone except yourself, where to yourself you still look like a normal human. And this is represented as a block climbing puzzle game. Essentially, you have walls of blocks and you have to pull them out to climb up.
Yeah.
And through time, like the bottom layer drops off. And the idea is you have to sort of pull yourself up and up to get out of the nightmare. And there's various like abilities, there's various different types of blocks. And where Rin comes in is she plays a piano that slows down the falling of the blocks. That's a new feature in this. And she appears human to everyone. And she sees everyone as human, even though they see the other people as sheep. So that's basically like the general core of the game. Half of it's sort of this pseudo-visual novel thing where you're talking to people in the bar and you're getting an idea of people and you're going through this story. And then the other half of it is this block climbing puzzle mechanic sort of thing. I'm fairly certain from what I've seen that that is the extent of the gameplay, but I do know more comes into it in terms of how those two worlds overlap. But I think I'll get a bit more into that in entertainment.
Cool. That sounds good. Who got their game next? I think it was me who got their next. So I actually.
Are we surprised?
Well, Keris got this one whilst I was with her in her shop.
Nice.
Yeah, I was originally looking for Bayonetta because we all know how embarrassing I find that game. Now I will say it is absolutely not the most embarrassing game ever. But I came across it, didn't I? And I tried to get you to buy it, so it looked like I would buy it.
Yeah, so she tried to make me buy it, and I went, I'm not doing that. And strangely enough, the PS5 version was cheaper than the PS4 version.
Nice.
But Keris bought me Lord of the Rings Gollum. 2 weeks, 2 Lord of the Rings style games.
Game of the year.
Game of the year in some way. So, Lord of the Rings Gollum. You play as Gollum.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly. So this is set in the Third Age, about it's I think 66 years after Bilbo has got the One Ring from Gollum. This is where you've you get captured by Gollum in the Misty Marshes by Aragorn and handed over to Gandalf, and then he basically reaches the confines of Mordor, meets Shelob, and then he tells everything that's happened to Gandalf. After that, you go to Mount Doom. You're busy wandering around there, and you see a bird, and you start following a bird, and then 3 fucking Nazgul capture you, and then you basically spend the rest of the game, apart from the last chapter, in Barad-dûr, the slave pits.
Yeah.
And you begin your life as a slave with a friend of a frail man and a horrible orc who doesn't like you. And it's essentially a game of you going around doing menial tasks for slave owners and also occasionally trying to escape and be sneaky. That's it. It's a platforming stealth. I say stealth in big things, in big
Air
quotation. Yeah, in Air Buddies, as characters call it. But you sort of go along, like it's like you go around to doing this, and then eventually, a couple of years later, you go, I don't want to be a slave anymore. So you escape, and then you find Gandalf, and then you go and kill some elves, or you don't kill some elves. And I think that's pretty much the game. And then it basically gets you back to the Mines of Moria, setting up to go, do you want a Gollum 2? And the answer is no. No one wants a Gollum 2.
Oh, come on, let's say something for entertainment.
But we're going to get...
I feel like you've got an argument to make.
But that's what the game is. It's a puzzle platformer game where you play as Gollum in Lord of the Rings. And it is set in between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is pretty much how it looks. But and you do get the Gollum Smeagol voices, and you do get a couple of things, but I'm going to talk about how it's all been constructed a bit more in entertainment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the general idea, is that you are Gollum in a slave pit, and you have to crouch occasionally, even though you're walking on all fours anyway.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. What the fuck? But yeah, the last person that received their game this episode, unsurprisingly, got it from Darren.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you get, Gareth?
What happened?
I got...
Share your trauma.
Megadimension Neptunia 7.
I think it's actually V2.
Oh, for fuck.
I genuinely have no idea, but I can't find 1 to 6.
Stupid game. Okay, V2. That's okay.
Josh doing a quick fact check.
You keep going, I'll find out.
Listen, I'm going to refer to Wikipedia shortly for this, because let me tell you now, the plot of this game makes absolutely no fucking sense. And it's the only way I'm going to be able to make sense of it.
Anime.
So
it is anime as fuck.
Essentially, the game begins with Neptune and Nepgear being transported from the hyperdimension dark
Fuck, I occasionally forget what this is
from
about.
the hyperdimension to the post-apocalyptic zero dimension, where they team up with local CPU, which are console patron units, Yuzumi Teneboshi, to defeat the giant dark CPUs and return home. They eventually uncover a scheme that threatens both dimensions. The game is basically separated into 3 individual chapters, okay? And they are different stories for different dimensions, all of which are equally as complex and fucking weird and nonsense as each other. There's one which is in Neptunia Z, which is the only one I've played so far. And throughout the world of game industry...
Yep.
I'll let you ponder on that for a sec.
Yep.
Neptune, who is the ruling CPU, and Nepgear, his sister, and CPU candidate of the nation, Planeptune, resume their lives of laziness despite warnings from the Oracle Histoire. She warns them that the world is entering a CPU shift period where basically the public don't want to worship them anymore. However, they think if they can prepare... properly, they stumble across an old video games console, which when activated transports them to the zero dimension, which is infested with monsters that they have to defeat in order to return home.
It's Tron, and it's definitely not for you. And also, just to clarify, it is V2. It's the follow-up to Neptunia Victory, so it's actually Victory 2.
Right. I read that in, Roman numerals.
I always read it as 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's Victory 2.
But that is essentially the plot of the story, and I will get into why this is a problem later on.
Something I want to quickly raise about that, just because I think it adds an extra layer to the whole game industry thing, is that the reason her name is Neptune is she's named after the unreleased Sega Neptune console, and so her sister is the Game Gear.
Yeah.
Is that why the console in the game, it looks like a PS1 with a swirl on it?
Yeah, that's the Sega, Sega sort of Dreamcast sort of thing.
Yep. It feels like it's trying to be real clever about it, but
it's not.
But it's not.
No. I think there's also like a PlayStation Nintendo one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. What games did people think about buying then? So I know you already mentioned Bayonetta, Karis.
Yeah, basically...
Far too early in the normal order we do things.
Sorry. I thought it was funny that I went in specifically looking for that, and then we found Gollum, and but yeah, my main one before I came across Gollum was literally I was just looking for any version of Bayonetta that I could, because I've talked before about how when I played that it did make me physically cringe on the inside. I don't know if it would have a sexy woman who in clothes and moans at everything would have the same cringy effect on you, I'll be honest. But
I think it might.
For me, it was cringy.
What was that look, Darren?
I remembered one, and I'm trying to remember what the fuck it's called.
I pretty much bought this game for Darren straight away. Like, I knew what I wanted to get, because I thought it was basically a man crawling up and down giant breasts. But in my head, I did have stuff like Leisure Suit Larry, which is obviously like what I did for the intro. I was like, I remember that being just a sleaze fest, and like that might be something good, but you can't find it on the right consoles. I thought about the Soul Calibur games. I think there's quite a few fighting games you potentially could have thought for this. I know Darren's got another one, which was like his intro as well. Seaman I looked at, which just looked like a fucking mess as a game goes. Nobody likes that one. And what was the other one I was looking at? I can't remember. Oh, Duke Nukem. I almost got got a Duke Nukem game. That was another thought I had there, because that is just cringy, fucking messy gaming. But really, it was trying to find games that had... I thought the most cringy thing I could do is buy games with, like, should we call it acceptable nudity that just feels a little uncomfortable at all times, but not enough to do anything with it.
Yeah, so I of course tried to buy Karis Bayonetta.
Yep.
Didn't work out. Dead or Alive, Extreme, beach volleyball or otherwise are just a time.
They're just physic graphics. That's what
they
it
are.
is.
And there was one, I can't find the name of it, but I remember what it was.
Go on, describe it.
As a boy who wishes upon a star that he becomes irresistible to women, and it's a first-person shooter. We have to shoot off rabid girls, basically.
That's not like Muscle Man or something like that.
No, that's a similar thing, but it's not quite that.
Okay.
And then I stumbled upon this, and it just, like, something in my brain, I've seen it before.
And you just thought...
As soon as I read the name, I went, oh, right, fuck yeah. That's awful.
And it was, by the sounds of it, it was awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Embarrassing was quite difficult to work out with. I think two of us went for games that we thought people would be embarrassed to be playing, to be seen, and Karis went for the one which is just an embarrassment of a game.
Yeah, like I thought about taking that approach, but I couldn't find something that I thought
would work quite well enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. And somehow you managed to find both. So should we go into the actual competition and fight out to see which is the most embarrassing game?
Yes.
Round 1, fight! So if you haven't been here before, we're now going to fight over 4 categories to see which game will come out on top and who will win. Rather, it's more who will win rather than which game. The first 3 categories go to the buyer. The last category goes to the player. Those categories are most accurate, value for money, most entertaining, and then player of the game. Yeah. So we will start with most accurate. So which of these is the most accurate
embarrassing game?
Yeah. Anyone want to go first?
I am quite happy to
go ahead.
Okay, so let me tell you from the bottom of my heart, I absolutely hated playing this game.
Nice.
It made me cringe so much from start to finish that it made me want to crawl inside my own ovaries and die. So what happens is, first of all, you get this huge intro, which is, very JRPG.
I don't know why you mind tits then.
I think
you do know
soon.
Okay, so bear in mind, right? I'm a girl who grew up watching Sailor Moon. Okay, I am not at all shocked by Japanese media or Japanese JRPGs even using things like transformative, clothing and that sort of thing, like everything having a little bit of a, sexy twist on it. But this intro was it was obviously like, it was like all like guitars and then all I can describe is what were very clearly supposed to be teenage girls coming on in their little like cute outfits and turning, and being tits everywhere. And I was like, these girls literally look about 14.
But is it full tits or is it like side boobs and stuff like that?
No, it's like side boob and things that barely cover and stuff. So it's enough. It's enough.
It's acceptable stuff for
Japan.
Yeah.
for Japanese media.
And then basically it goes into the story, and from that intro, they go back to being very clearly teenagers, and the way they talk is very teenage. But at the same time, there's a reason why I did the ooh intro, okay? Because everything they do when they talk, it's all very like, oh my god, and it's like, oh god, this is very like, it feels paedophilic is the only way I can describe it.
But how's the gameplay?
We're not on entertainment yet.
Yeah, I'll
Wait
come
for
back
that.
to gameplay for entertaining.
We'll get
but
there.
I personally, it wasn't, the gameplay has nothing to do with it being
Right.
cringy.
I didn't know if that was part of the cringy nature.
No,
though.
I think
it's part
it's
of the
source
reason why
material
it's
more than
boring as
anything.
fuck.
Right, okay.
But
Hey,
it's,
spoilers.
but it's not why it's cringy. To me, it's cringy because it really toes the line between these kids being kids and then it having this really overt sexual nature all the way through, which I would be, you know, with Bayonetta, at least you know Bayonetta is a grown woman. These are literally, if they're meant to be adults, they're very juvenile and they look like kids and they speak like kids. I'm a teacher, I know how teenagers talk, and this sounds like teenagers in a porno, and it's really weird to me.
It feels like, and it's not to me to dismiss that, but I would say a lot of Japanese, I think even Persona 5 has that sort of towing the line.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Much less than this, though.
Yeah.
This is very blatant.
The thing
to
I
me.
give to Persona is that I think they are also, while they are explicitly in the context of the story teenagers, the way they act is aged up.
It's more adult,
slightly.
yeah.
This is aged down slightly.
I always forget with Persona 5 that they're meant to be teenagers. They
Yeah.
always come across
that's
more like university students to
Yeah.
me. And I think that's the reason why you can kind of get past it, because the dialogue and everything is a bit more adult. And you can, I do forget the children.
Yeah.
This is like the first scene is the Oracle getting them out of bed because they're really lazy and they don't want to do anything and they don't want to work and they're like, oh, but I don't want to get out of bed and get changed because I just don't want to and I'm just so tired. And it's like, these are children.
This is the
and Oracle is meant to be like their mum.
Yeah.
And it's
You really should have
weird.
gone last for this one, Gareth.
This is the embodiment of like the anime trope of, oh, she looks 14 but she's actually 1,000.
Yeah. Well, they are. They're all out of date gaming consoles.
They are game
They're not
consoles.
real. I think that's the thing.
I think the idea is they
they're
sort
not
of
real people.
age up slightly when they do the whole transformation, but it's still weird.
It's still fucking
Yeah.
strange. Yeah. So
I guess I'll go next with Gollum. So this game is just an embarrassment. It looks awful. So the graphics are really poor. But bear in mind, this game got delayed by 18 months and it still came out as this shit show. Like, the hair is awful. The weird eyes don't really make sense. The voice acting is terrible. Like, he's now such an iconic character is Gollum Smeagol, that you expect voices to be in a certain way. Instead, he's almost like, oh, I don't feel good. No, I don't feel good either. It's like, what the fucking voices are you doing here? Like, these aren't Gollum and Smeagol. And it's like, there's something more that needs to be done there. This game is so shit and buggy, it doesn't make sense. Right, I'm going to get into, I know it's gameplay, but this is why it's an embarrassment. It's because of the stuff in there. You crawl on all fours the entire game.
Nice.
Okay.
You control, like, basically a deer on ice. You slide round corners for no reason. And then it's like, oh no, there's a hole you have to crouch through. So you drop by half an inch to get slightly forward. Oh, now I can fit through this hole. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this makes no sense. You jump and platform is the whole thing, but you go like swinging to go on. He goes, right, now swing, and it catapults you 600 meters in front and you miss the platform. It's unplayable. It's just a fucking travesty of a game. Like, that's the issue. It's an embarrassment. It should never have been released. I don't understand what's going on. Also, Lord of the Rings music, iconic sounding.
Yeah,
you know what you're doing.
absolutely.
They decided to go, no, we can do it slightly different. We can do everything. And so the music doesn't feel right. Nothing in this feels like it should exist. Like it's someone going, someone told me about this once. Can you code? Well, I've made Flappy Bird. Brilliant. We'll bring you in. And that's sort of how it feels. Like it shouldn't be a game. It's embarrassing that it's sold. I'm glad I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
I'm glad Keris went and bought it in the shop. And I'm glad that I found a new contender for worst game of the year. It is honestly horrific. Like, it shouldn't exist. And I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that this came out, and I'm embarrassed for this company because they are a point-and-click adventure company primarily.
Yeah.
And then they went, oh, we'll make this game. This will put us put us into the mainstream. And all they've done is killed themselves.
Yep.
Like, no one's going to trust them with anything going forwards. It's just the fact that I'm pretty sure the studio will close down.
Probably.
That's how bad it is. Like, it's an embarrassment. It's not the same way yours is embarrassing.
Yeah.
This is an embarrassment of a game. You know, it shouldn't be it.
That is what I was going for.
Okay. Yeah, Catherine's pretty good. This is less embarrassing. It's real weird. It has a lot of, like, I said this before, it has a lot of implied nudity. Tasteful side boob, one might say. Where, like, one of the characters, the majority of the time I've seen her, she's been completely naked. But it's like, it will show it from the other side of the room, so her whole body's concealed behind, like, the TV screen.
Yeah.
And you can just see, like, head, arms.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. It's got some...
It's suggestive more than...
It's very suggestive. It's got some more, like, overtly sexual stuff in it, but it comes across less as embarrassing and more as just, like, very weird.
Yeah.
There's, so in the gameplay bits for the block pushing, you have boss fights that come up. And one of the boss fights is literally just a sentient butt. It's an ass. It has eyes on the cheeks, and the mouth is where the hole should be, and it's got, like, the body behind it crawling up. But it's not, like, embarrassing. It's like, look at it and go, what the fuck are we doing here? Like,
would you argue it's slightly cringy? If someone walked in on you, you feel like you need to explain it, though.
It would be less... There are some games, like, to leap over, from what I've heard about the one I inflicted upon Keris, if someone walked in to see me playing it, I would, like, scramble.
Yeah.
If someone walked... Like, I started playing this, and there was a weird cutscene at the beginning where someone is running away from a stalker. You don't know who it is at this point. And they collide with your main character, Vincent, and she lands on him crotch to face. And I was sat in the room, and Lauren was sat looking at her phone. And she looked up at that point and looked at me, and I just went, I don't fucking know. It was less like, no, it's like, I was like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't know either. And that's how I felt about, like, the sentient butt as well. If someone walked in and saw it, I'd be like, I know. Like, what are we doing?
It's so... I feel like the difference between, like, yours and one Keris played is almost like when you're watching... Let's put it, Game of Thrones. There's a difference between when Cersei's fucking Jaime to when, you know, it's just a regular married couple having sex. Like, it's uncomfortable to be watching with my family, but we sort of all go, that's fine. And then you sitting there with your sister, and it's a guy fucking a sister, and you're like, right, should we turn it off? Like, I don't know.
The whole context of this game is about, like, adultery and men being scummy and being sentenced to the nightmare for the scummy things they've done. So when a boss shows up that's a butt, I'm like, yeah. Understandable.
Fair, okay.
I'm surprised we didn't see this sooner, to be honest.
So would you say that yours is probably the least embarrassing?
It's the least embarrassing.
Which
I
is
can
shocking.
see how you would be embarrassed by it, and I don't know if it's just
not
me. But, like, also, we have the box in front of us. I spent ages trying to work out what the title is meant to be in the shape of, and only when it was on the little panel on the PlayStation did I realise it's underwear.
Yeah, it's clearly underwear. I thought.
Did not get it.
Is underwear slightly falling down?
Yeah, so, like, on the main page, it has the legs.
Do you want to say what that is also on the next one?
On the cover?
Oh, no, that is also exactly what they have Anna wearing in the bikini seasons of Persona, because it's slightly falling down, and they do it on all of their fucking things when people are wearing those bikini bottoms.
Yeah.
They do it in all of the Persona ones whenever there's anyone in, like, underwear, like, oh, we can show a little bit of the line, like, ooh.
But, like, the point I'm up to, I'm honestly shocked how reserved it has been.
Yeah.
It feels like it's towing the line because it's trying to play the story kind of straight.
Okay.
It's about you're meant to think he's doing something deplorable.
I do think it ramps up a little bit more, but, you know...
Like, I know where this game goes, and I can see how it would get there. But, like, at the point I'm up to, it just feels very... it's like it's taking the moral high ground on the game where also a boss is a butt.
Yeah. So the question is, which is the more embarrassing game, Megadimension Neptunia 7 or Lord of the Rings Gollum?
I suppose it depends on how you want to look at the category, though, doesn't it?
It really does. They are the two polar opposites.
Mine is really embarrassing on one level, but having seen you play a little bit of Gollum, I would say it's a much better made game.
Neptunia's better. Yeah. This is the thing, like, if someone asked me what I'm playing, I would feel more comfortable to say Megadimension Neptunia V2 because they're never going to look it up and they don't know what it is. I don't want to admit to anyone that I'm playing Gollum as well.
I feel the opposite because I think there is like a novelty to Gollum.
You think there's a novelty that gets past it?
Yeah, like if someone said, "What are you playing?" and I went, "I'm playing Gollum," and they would go like, "Why the fuck are you playing Gollum?" I'm like, I just had to know.
Yeah.
If you are of your own volition playing Megadimension Neptunia, I keep wanting to say 7.
Yeah.
Victory 2.
Yep.
It paints an image of you.
It does. It really does.
Gollum, I think, at least has the... I am embarrassed personally that Gollum happened. But I think there's a past there of it paints the image of someone who's just kind of curious.
I think I can see... this is really hard because I can see both sides of it because I'll be honest with you, as I said, when I went to CEX and said... the first thing I did was turn to Josh and go, you have to buy this because I can't go to the counter and buy this. They're just going to think that I'm like... They're either going to think... Well, no, my first thing was... This is a really... They're going to think I'm a really fucking stupid girl who's never read anything about games, who just likes Lord of the Rings, and is just going to be like, oh my god, yeah, Lord of the Rings. And I was like, no, that's not who I am. And I didn't want to give that impression, and I thought that was the impression I would get if I went up to the counter and bought this myself. However, if anybody ever caught me playing this, I think I'd lose my job.
Okay, I'm going to say the opposite way now. I think there are people who will wear the badge proudly of playing Mega Neptunia, whilst I don't think anyone will proudly wear the badge of wearing Gollum.
The thing is about that I will give to that credit is that it is an existing property, and there are people who are fans of it.
This is the second one.
I was going to say, at least there's enough people that there's a second one.
I think being a fan of the property is embarrassing.
Yes.
But
there are bronies out there.
Yeah, there is a route to that game.
God, how did I forget that bronies existed?
There's a route to that game.
Yeah.
That I think makes sense.
There's an unfortunate market.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, there is an unfortunate market for that.
Yeah, this is the thing. It depends really on the angle you're going from.
Yeah.
The only thing I would vote for Gollum because I think there is no one who is proud about that, but there are plenty of people who are embarrassed about both games, which is why I would go for Gollum. Although I think it's not exactly how I imagine the category when I say embarrassing. I would go more that way, but I think that Gollum, in my mind, hits them up because there is no one proud of this game.
That's the thing. I personally would feel less embarrassed playing Gollum because I have the out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if you neutrally took the two properties and told me everything about them and put them in front of me and said, which one
do you want to stream?
Yeah, well, to be fair, I'd rather stream Gollum because I'm scared of the content. And I know that I have to stream it, and I'm scared already. But, from my stance of where I sit in the gaming industry, I'm less embarrassed to play Gollum.
Yeah.
Because I'm just very curious about it.
So
at least Neptunia is a established franchise that has its fans. I imagine it's much less embarrassing from a Japanese perspective.
Yeah.
Because that is the core media of that.
Yeah.
I can see the arguments for all of them. I personally am going to vote for Neptunia just because I think it is the more embarrassing game.
That's fair enough.
I think everything surrounding the game of Gollum is embarrassing. I think of the content itself, I am less embarrassed by the game of Gollum.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm more embarrassed by having to admit I played it. I'd be more embarrassed playing that.
Yeah.
Oh, if it makes you feel any better, Gollum was also apparently done paid staff below the minimum wage and created a toxic work environment by abuse of leadership.
Again, that's embarrassing.
You read more about this game, you're like, fuck.
Not even for a good game.
No.
I find this really difficult. I'll be honest, because on the one hand, Gollum, it was an embarrassment to buy.
That's the thing. One is embarrassing, one is an embarrassment.
Yeah. And if I vote for that one, I get the point. Which,
So, I mean, I know what I would do if I was in your shoes.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to give myself a point because I'm behind. I'm very behind. But I want to make it very clear that doesn't mean by any chance I enjoy playing this game.
It's pretty rough.
It was rough going.
That's the thing. I think Gollum has more of a cultural context that makes it embarrassing.
That's it. I mean, I think again, if we were an Eastern market, I think Megadimension
that flies.
That flies.
Yeah.
Megadimension doesn't even get mentioned. It is just Gollum. So in a world scale, it's Gollum.
Yeah.
Should we have a little look at value? Point to Keris. Well done.
Yes! Woo!
I don't know how the rest of it's going to go, but we'll see.
It was worth it.
Should we go for value for money now?
Yes.
We will go in. We'll go in reverse order of being purchased.
Oh, cute.
So the last one purchased was Megadimension Neptunia V2.
Yep.
How much did you spend?
I spent £15.67.
£15.67. Okay. And on how long to beat? The main story says 36 hours. Mains and size is 56.5.
Yeah.
All styles we'll look at as well as 53.5 hours. I'm not looking at completionist of 74.
That's sort of 50 to 55 range.
Yeah, we're looking around that sort of 50 range. That's sort of where it sits.
I don't hate that for a JRPG.
Yeah.
No, that seems like a more approachable size for a JRPG, which is good.
Shout out to Cyber Sleuth and its 150-hour completion.
That game. Lord of the Rings Gollum. How much did you spend on Lord of the Rings Gollum?
I can't remember now.
£13 is what you spent on Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Wrapped up in the embarrassment of being at that counter.
You just gave him the card and were like, charge me anything.
Take it, please.
Main story is 12.5 hours.
Wow.
Mains and sides is 15.5.
It's longer than I thought.
And all styles is 13 hours. Completionist is only 25 hours if you're going to go actually.
If you had said mains and sides was 10 hours, I would have believed you.
It's got a bunch of collectibles you need to do, and also there's 2 variant endings.
Okay.
So you have to make a hard save at one
Two
point.
endings? That's so many.
Yeah, unnecessary. Yeah, who'd have more than
Who'd have
that?
more than 2 endings?
So yeah, about 13 hours roughly for. So you're getting £1 an hour out of that. And Catherine Full Body, I spent $12.95, making it the cheapest bought game. Main story 12 hours, mains and sides 17 hours, but all styles about 13.5. So pretty much 95 hours.
This game has 14 endings.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
if you go completionist, value for money is quite clear.
Yeah.
But let's be honest.
I'd rather, if you're not trophy hunting, you're not doing all fucking
No.
14. Jesus.
Yeah.
What you're doing if you want to see them all is you are
Watching them
playing
on
it
YouTube.
and then you're watching all the endings on
Yep.
YouTube to work out what's happening, and that's probably how it's
Trophy
going.
per ending.
Oh, is there?
Yep.
I mean, I can't wait to go for the platinum on
I know.
this. Cannot wait to spend 95 hours climbing up and
yeah.
down giant boobs.
So many blocks, the boobs are often below you, trying to kill you.
How often that happens is
know,
unreal. Never. It never happens. So this one's quite clear. This one's quite clear.
Just say, as the owner of hopefully the only boobs that Josh is
As a
seeing in
boob
real
owner.
life,
I said it's never happening.
in what situation would there be a possibility of it happening?
I get shrunk down.
Oh yeah, my boobs are pretty big.
Well, everything's pretty big if I'm shrunk down.
Yeah, true. Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're on top and say something demeaning.
What do you mean? I like that.
So we're giving the points
You're
to
welcome, YouTube.
Megadimension Neptunia 7 V2 clearly wins this.
Victory toi.
Victory Toi has clearly won
three.
that.
Yeah.
So well done, Darren. Victory deux.
Oh,
I just copied you as well, which is worse.
Oh my god.
I only went, you fucking idiot. 3. I was like, you said it. I copied you.
Oh, don't worry. I'm the idiot here.
So, point to you, which is a point to Darren and to Keris right now.
Yeah.
Should we move on to entertainment now?
Let's do it.
Because I have a very strong feeling I might get a point this one, as no one has liked their game bar
No.
Darren.
I'm going last, boys.
Yeah, go on.
ahead.
Have you enjoyed the game, Keris?
No.
You
No,
hate-
I haven't. Okay, so the problem that I have with this paedophilia side, okay, is the issue that I have is that there's actually very little gameplay. So what I've played of it so far, it is essentially a dungeon crawler. And the different parts of it, you go into Zero, there's lots of cutscenes, and then you go in and you fight the monsters, and it's a dungeon crawler is what it is. I don't mind a dungeon crawler. It's not my favourite. I do find them very repetitive. This one in particular is very repetitive. and the amount of cutscenes and dialogue in it the dialogue, every piece of dialogue is a cutscene. And it just means that there's not an actual massive amount to play so far. And granted, as you can tell, I haven't wanted to spend a lot of time on this game. And I haven't. And maybe I should have put more time into it. But the embarrassment was too much. And so far, it has literally just been like a couple of fights. It's turn-based. And I like a turn-based thing. So that was cool. The fights themselves, not bad, actually. Thought they were okay. But it doesn't make up for the fact that there are so many cutscenes in it. And there's so much unnecessary dialogue. To the point where the tutorial stage takes a fucking age because there's so many unnecessary cutscenes because you just want them to make these porny, like, noises. That there's just, if I'm honest, I may as well have just been watching a fucking terrible Japanese series. There's not an actual lot of gameplay going on. I was very tired the last time I played this game, and while a cutscene was going on, I fell asleep.
Nice.
So I have to say I did not enjoy playing this, not because it was cringy, but because I found it really boring, and the dialogue is not clever, it's not smart enough, it's not gripping enough to make you want to watch that many fucking cutscenes.
To continue on with boring games.
Yeah.
Gollum was boring. Yeah, I think that was the biggest upset I had, is that it just wasn't interesting. I was like, oh, this is quite a cool story, maybe we'll get something a bit more, but him just stuck in a fucking slave pit climbing up wheels and stuff, you're like,
it's not even weird enough to overcome being
no
dark.
It's just a really boring platformer that tries to put stealth in, but stealth doesn't really work because the AI is not good enough.
Yeah.
So like there's bits where you have to like climb up a wall. You have to go around about 3 enemies and you can throw rocks at lights that go out and they go off and look at it. But the point you have to climb, there's literally a dude stood in there and he won't come out because there's nothing for you to do. So you just have to wait for his back to be turned and hope that he doesn't turn around whilst you climb a wall. You're like, that's not stealth, that's just poor design.
Yeah.
And I think that's more the issue. The game's just poorly designed. And the fact that you can't really gauge where you're landing on these jumps and stuff doesn't really work. Like, I just don't understand. It's like swing, jump, throw, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And really, Gollum, I think, is actually quite an interesting character. Like, Smeagol Gollum could be really fun. But him just going, oh, God, I'm stuck in a slave pit. Oh, I've got to make the Candleman on my side. Oh, I'll blame this frail man for it. Oh, it just... None of it is really gripping. It's not a gripping story.
No.
Gollum stuck in a prison, hatching a bird, and then seeing Gandalf when he eventually escapes.
Nice.
For 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's not exactly a game, is it? Let's be honest, it's barely a story.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that, you know, found on a scrap of paper and, oh, let's try and push this out a bit longer. And that's the issue. It just doesn't have anything on there. So I'd say this is a complete dull ordeal of the time.
Yeah, Catherine's pretty good. It's, as I said, for us, like half visual novel, half this block puzzle thing. I can see the block puzzles getting a bit repetitive, but at this point they're still like quite interesting. They're genuinely quite hard.
Yeah.
There are many a time where you'll get to the top of it and you'll see like a gap somewhere, and just as the floor is collapsing below you, just be like, how the fuck? Where is a block to make this work? Like I got to one that was just like the final block and then just a sheer tower of blocks like 2 away.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't get one high enough to add on to that layer. Where the fuck do I find another block? And I think I died like 4 times, and every time you die, you have undos, and you can pick up more throughout the level.
Right.
And every time you die, you
Atlas love an undo.
Yeah.
Atlas love an undo.
Every time you die, you use up an undo, and when you run out of undos and die, it's game over. So I haven't had a game over yet, because I just often...
So is that smart?
I have 3 undos, and I die 3 times before I finally work out what the fuck's happening. But they're fun, they can be quite hard. Some of the... power-ups are quite good. There's one that just creates like squares around you. There's one that means you can jump up 2 blocks, which is good if you're quite stuck. You can use that and just get up to the next level to start progressing onwards. The visual novel bit of it is a bit dry.
Okay.
Just because once you've picked...
Who?
Yeah, basically, like, you have the options at this point of the long-term girlfriend or the new girl.
Yeah.
And the game is very heavily trying to, like, play the middleman. But by this point, if you know, like, from my perspective, I know I want to go for an ending. I want to try and like get to this direction. So the game's very much like, oh, it could go either way, and I'm like, no, game, I'm gonna keep picking these fucking options.
I've made the decision.
I've made the choice. You can wobble around in the fucking middle ground all you like. I'm every time gonna be like, no, her. Her, please. Can we skip the next bit? But it's cool. There's some cool stuff I know is coming up, and I will cover this. I haven't had this personally happen, but I know this does happen later on. So between the block levels, you get to like this landing area where you have other sheep there, who are basically other people in the nightmare, and they all correspond to people in the real world.
Right.
I know as you go on, you can start to meet the people in the real world who correspond to the sheep people,
right?
The sheeple, if you will, and they espouse problems they're having in the nightmare
so
world.
Persona 5. It's clearly a tech demo, isn't it?
Yeah. This is like they espouse problems they're having in the nightmare world, and then you can talk to them and try and help resolve those problems in the real world to stop them from eventually dying as a result of being killed in the dream. Because if you die in the dream, you die in real life.
Yeah.
The only I had a point and it's gone. I will say though, there's at the end of each of them, you also have like these questions you're asked, where it's like how it basically decides the morality scale of the game, and so you end up in these areas, and it's just like, do you think this is more important or this?
Right.
And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, this or that. I'm really annoyed. I can't think of that.
It's all right. Just talking about that, Gollum does have something where you can sort of like, because you have Gollum and Spiegel, you can do Gollum or Spiegel responses to people, and the more you do one, the bigger that option is, and your voice sort of reflects which character you are.
That's cool.
That's
I
the
do
only,
like that.
That's the only interesting bit they've got in the game.
An interesting idea that sounds like it's just
because you mentioned the morality, like the either or, and that's the similar sort of idea.
I've also remembered the point now.
Hooray.
Good. It's because you said Persona and it sparked something in my brain, but only half an idea. This does have the Persona problem where every time I am playing it, I feel like there's something I should be doing that I'm not aware of.
Right.
Because I know the points to come where like people might live or die based on my actions. I'm like, I don't am I meant to talk to these people? Am I meant to answer their questions? Am I meant to help them? Do I just leave?
And I assume the other Atlas issue with saving.
Saving is a bit rough. You can save at the end of each individual block puzzle, and you can save any time you have control of Vincent. Right. The problem is, often, between the end of the block puzzles and the start of having control of Vincent, it's like 20 to 30 minutes of just cutscene.
Yeah. That's
just going.
The typical Persona issue, yeah.
So, like, once you're in either side of that, it's not too bad. You're relatively free to save, but in those middle parts, you're like, I want to go.
Fair enough.
And so, like, I will say I only really want to play it an hour at a time, because it does get a bit repetitive.
But that's still more. That's an hour
it's
more
than either of you want to play your games.
So,
and once it opens up a bit, I can see it being more interesting. I want to push through it.
So by default, I win.
You do, yeah,
Hooray!
Like easily. Let's be fair.
Yeah. So that's a point to all of us going into play of the games. And I feel like, not even going into that, I feel like with Darren actually enjoying his game, he's more likely to win this next section.
I have one. I'm happy to go first.
Oh,
yeah,
go for it.
This just tickled me because of like the thought process I had to get there. So as I said, at the end of each puzzle, you go into basically a church confessional, and what I assume is a demon on the other side. They have a very like demonic, maniacal voice, asks you a question, and you pull a rope for one of two answers. After this, when you're between the puzzles, it tells you what everyone else said, and it tells you mainly in your like sphere. So mine always says men aged 20 to 30. And this is what they all said. Right. And some people are fucking liars. The first question you get asked is, what do you value more, good looks or good personality?
Yeah.
And you get to the end, and it's like 85-15 split to personality. I'm like, some of you are fucking
liars. Yeah.
Some of you are terrible. But one of them, there's some of them that don't have a clear, like, morally correct answer. And one of them was, you sit down in the booth, and it says, do you believe you have a soulmate? And the two answers are yes, somewhere, or yes, behind this screen.
Okay, right.
And I'm sat there, and I'm like, I don't know what to answer, because the real part of me thinks yes, somewhere is the more accurate answer.
Yeah.
The other part of me thinks yes, behind the screen is fucking funny.
Yeah.
And I want to see if I get like a fun dialogue option. And I fucking laboured over this. I'm sat there going, I want to say, because I'm going for the good boy ending, I want to say yes somewhere because I feel like that's the good answer.
Yeah.
What I found out afterwards is it has no effect on the morality. This is just an answer.
This is just an answer.
This debates endings you can get down the line. I think this is one of the ones that decides that. I say ages. I'm like, this is clearly the good answer, but this is really funny, and I want to see if I can get like the different thing.
Yeah.
The fun like extra line.
Yeah.
And I in the end, I'm like, yes, somewhere, just in case it's a morality thing. I want to get the good boy answer, and I pull the yes somewhere rope, and it goes through, and I get the results, and I shit you not, 50-50 down the fucking line. Oh my God. And I'm like, clearly, because it's all men aged 20 to 30, we're all having the same dilemma of that's accurate, but that's fucking funny. And it coming out, I expected it to come out like, oh, it'll be like,
that's nice.
Everyone I've seen so far is like 80-20.
Yeah.
70-30. It's all like heavily balanced.
Yeah.
And it's just like, half of you were accurate and half of you are fucking jokers.
Yeah.
I'm like, good shit, guys. The real duality of man of am I honest or am I funny?
Nice. Keris, do you even have a play of the game?
I do, yeah. And unfortunately, my play of the game is with this game where it seemed to go out of its way to fucking insult me. This is literally within 10 minutes of the game as well, and a part of me was like, I'm just going to fucking turn this off now, right? So I've gone through this big intro, and this, we're going through you've got to get it because you're lazy teenagers, and blah. They don't actually say lazy teenagers, they're not that blatant, but you get what I mean. And at one point you get different CPUs that come in, and it's kind of almost like introducing them, and, they come in with different personalities and stuff. And one of them goes, hey, you can't complain about me being lazy because Noir is lazy. And then Noir comes in like a little, almost like a Star Trek kind of like transmission.
Star Wars, yeah.
No, the running version.
Yeah. And the person that pops up on the screen, my physical reaction was, oh God, she looks like me. Because, it's long black hair and, big gothy and blah, 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 blah. And Noir's like, hey, don't let me in with those lazy people. I was just thinking, God, she if someone drew me as an anime character, she does actually really look like me. At which point, this fucking Neptune turns around and goes, just ignore Noir, she's a friendless, worthless person. Nobody likes you, Noir. And I was like, how fucking dare you? And then they just fucking turn her off, and at that point, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I was like, I'm done with this girl. I was like, because, granted, she doesn't look like me now. If you saw any photos of me and Josh at our wedding, like when I had my fringe and it was like long black hair, it was a spitting image of that. And they were I think not even a hello, just that you're a friendless, worthless piece of shit. Get off my screen. And I was like, wow.
I forgot that something similar happened to me and Catherine. I will go over this just slightly because Vincent's introduced. He's meant to be like fucking loser, dead end, and he's on the phone at the start. And his boss is like hounding him for being late or something. He's like, yeah, sorry I'm late. As he's getting out of like his single fucking bed in his tiny apartment, he's like, yeah, I'll be at the coding meeting later. And I'm like, Vincent, don't hurt me like this. Don't make him a fucking coder. Don't hurt me like this.
I had the same thing in Gollum. And look at that little weasel.
Oh, I thought you'd be the frail old man.
No, I'm the fat angry orc.
It made me insult myself as well, because there was a part of me that saw it, and Noir, I think, is meant to be a little bit older. She's a little bit more like sexily dressed, and I was like, oh, she looks like me, but she's got her tits out. And then I realised who I am, and so I would also have my tits out. So
that's true.
I can't. And I was like, okay, I'm a whore, okay. But yeah.
So the game insulted you, yeah.
It insulted me, and yet really saw me as a person, I think.
I was between two things. Who would have thought I had two potential player of the games for Lord of the Rings Gollum?
I'm turning off.
No. One of them was you're going along, and because you walk past a bunch of orcs, like slave owners and stuff like that, with just driving. You go along, and they go, "What's that?" Oh, I don't know. It might be a dwarf. It might be a human. It's too small. They go, "Yeah, it's too ugly to be a dwarf." And it made me laugh. I was like, "Is that me they're talking about?"
It's like a dwarf's attractive?
I don't know, but more attractive than Gollum is all I was. I think it was just saying like no,
just making my tier list.
It was like 2 to get. You got to get it ranked, which I thought was good. The other one is just how bad like the mechanics were. There was a point I climbed up to, and I had to just jump across to another platform. Now, I was like, that's too far. That is far too far. You can sprint and jump, and you can go further. Yeah. So I sprinted, I jumped, and I miss it by a fucking mile. And I go, well, that doesn't work. And then I spawned back in. I was like, okay, I'll go back up there. Is there anywhere else I can go? Looked around. There was nowhere else. I was like, this is clearly where I need to go.
Yeah.
Sprinted, jumped, and again missed it. I went, oh, this doesn't fucking make sense. Did it a third time, and it fucking magneted me from real below up into it. I was like, oh, so this is the way I need to go. It's just they've made it horribly. Got onto the platform, jumped to the next point, immediately died. I hit the next one. I was like, oh, great. So I went there again, and this last time, I jumped there, landed in the pits of the lava, and he went, oh no, you're close enough now, pulled me out on fire, like, you're fine. I got up and went, you're dead. I was like, what the hell are you doing with me, game? Why are you playing me like this? And it was just a fucking multitude of just messy bits of this game, of them going, death, here you go, you've got there, don't worry, here's a glimmer of hope for you. Oh no, you're dead, you're fucking T2ing into the lava pit with your fucking thumb up.
I like the game treating you. Just like, no, don't worry, dog guy. You come out of the fire, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. And then lifts up to the platform and just goes, fucking splat.
You're fucking dead. Nothing for you. I was like, this is stupid. Why does this game exist? But it was, there were multiple points where you were swinging on a platform, like on a little pole, because there's always a pole in a fucking, in a platform game. And I swung to land on a platform, and I've got real close to the platform, and it pulled me to another fucking one that was on rotation. And I was, all right, you've only got no stamina left, so we're going to drop you now into the fire. I was like, for fuck's sake. It was just non-stop bullshit like this. And at every moment, I laughed a little, but died more inside. Yeah. And it was just painful.
At least the game was entertaining.
It was entertaining by being fucking shit, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, play the game.
I mean, I personally like mine, partly because I like points, but also I just thought it was really funny for how long I laboured over it, because I was like, right down the middle, I could go either way because both of these are good answers, and then for it to be 50-50, I'm like, oh, literally all of us have been sat here going, that's really funny, but it's a bad answer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I also liked mine because I'm losing and I got insulted. So I'm going to vote for me. Thank you.
I'm losing. Honestly, I don't think anyone deserves to win any of this. No. If I'm being completely honest, this is such a write-off episode. No one deserves any points.
Give me the pity point, please.
Just nothing.
I really don't know where I sit on this. I don't think mine wins because there was nothing redeemable in this game. It was real hard to find anything. This game got to the point where I went, I need to go back in for another hour to try and find something. I thought, no, I don't want to do it. So, yeah, not putting anything in for that.
That's fair.
I think just because it was a bigger insult to herself, I'm going for Keris as player of the game.
Yeah, I do like it.
But I agree with Darren. I've done that before. I love those, especially like on like the Telltale games. You get a recap at the end, and you're like, oh, I wonder what other people did, and you're like, I bet I did like the minority, and you're like the majority the whole way down. You're like, oh, I'm just a basic person.
My favourite one of those is at the end of, I think it's episode 1. We have to choose to save the techie guy or the cute girl.
Yeah,
it's like 90%.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like,
yeah,
I am the majority. Oh, obviously I saved.
Oh, is that when you leave it on the car side of the road or something? Is it? Or
no, it's like they're both being dragged away by zombies, and you pull one in through the window.
Yeah.
And it's like 95% saved the cute girl. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're all human.
we're only people. But yeah, that means another point to you, Keris, which means you win embarrassing.
Yes.
Although, if I'm being honest, none of us won today.
No.
Not one of us won.
Time.
Before we look at the next time, can we try and pull another category, please, Darren? A better category than we had this time. Do you reckon you can do that?
I reckon I can try my very
as it will be our lovely Christmas episode. Actually, will it come out on Christmas Day or Boxing Day? It comes out on Boxing Day, I think this one.
It comes out Boxing Day, yeah. Around that time somewhere.
Our next one will be on a Boxing Day treat for us all whilst we're all full of food and hungover.
Just all... We need to recover from like the happiness of Christmas by a new episode of this.
Oh no, that won't be the next one. That'll be our Game of the Year episode. Will be actually on that one.
Well, so our next episode. This is
okay.
Quite a nice
I'm excited now. Where have you got it from? The random
genre.
And how do you say two in French? Toi.
I can offer you Dexter's favourite French phrase.
Omelette du fromage. Lovely. Is that our next category?
So
cheese omelette.
I'll be honest with you all. I drew 2 categories because the first one was very similar to what we've just done.
Okay.
But our category for next time.
Darren seems excited. So
I'm quite excited. I think this is quite a broad one.
Okay.
This one will be quite interesting.
Okay.
Our next category is superpowers.
Oh,
cool.
very exciting.
Very broad.
Who am I buying for? I'm buying for Keris, aren't I?
Yes.
I know what I'm buying. I've already got it. I already know.
That's nice.
You know what I'm buying.
Means I can buy mine last again.
Well, I always buy mine first. Let's be honest. It's
So I'm dying for
Darren, and Darren's buying for me, and you, and I'm buying for you.
Yeah.
And so join in for our next one where we're going to be doing superpowers, which will be very exciting. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, do check us out on our socials at disccountpod. That's on Instagram. You can check us out on our individual ones at discount Darren, discount Keris, and discount Josh. Everything has 2 C's because it's discount. It's a clever little pun. And you can check us out on YouTube where we've got slightly longer versions of this, along with every stream we do, because we stream on Twitch 3 times a week. All of those are at Discount Pod. So on Mondays and Fridays, we do legacy games where Darren's doing Kingdom Hearts, I'm doing the Soulsborne games, and Keris is doing Resident Evil games. And then on Wednesdays, we do Vault and episode games. December was a bit different, but we will be back to that regular schedule going forwards. So check it out there, which has our full schedule. I think that's everything from us.
So.
Anything else to say?
I don't think so, no.
Bad games.
Just ooh woo.
Ooh woo.
Ooh woo.
And we'll catch you all next time. Thank you for being our player 4s. Bye.